Clark last night was drafted number 1 overall in the WNBA 2024 draft as she went to the Indiana Fever. But the big story this morning when I woke up was not really about the fact that she was drafted number 1, but the fact that the pay differential and her projected 4-year outlook on her pay. If you look at that, at first year's projection around $74,000, year 2's around $80,000, and then goes up from there to around $100,000 in year 4. And so there's a lot of pay differential, and I saw old Jamil Hill on X saying that it's basically sexism, the reason that they're not getting paid the way they should be paid. And I saw some other people say it, pretty much the same thing. But it's not sexism, actually, it's revenue. It comes down to revenue. And so when you look at the revenue of the NBA versus the WNBA, you go back 2022, the revenue of the NBA was around $10 billion, billion with a B. The revenue for the WNBA was around 60 million with an M. So basically, NBA had 166 times more revenue than WNBA. Now let's break it down by salary. The average salary in 2022. NBA about $9.6 million. WNBA, $102,000. Big difference, right? True. But there's also a big difference in revenue. So 166 times more revenue for the NBA over the WNBA. You multiply the average salary of the WNBA, $102,000, times 166, equals around $16 million of average salary that you would project the NBA to have based upon their 166 times more revenue. But in actuality, NBA has, what I say, 9.6 million average. So in actuality, the NBA might be underpaid if you go off the difference in revenue. And this also doesn't mention the fact that, I'm not mentioning the fact that the WNBA loses around $10 million a year since its inception in 1997. So the good news is, I'm not hating on the WNBA, but the good news is you have a once-in-a-generational star in Caitlin Clark, who just less than 2 weeks ago produced the highest-rated finals college women's basketball game in the history of college basketball for the women at over 18 million viewers. This was actually more viewers than the men's final, which happened on Monday, just over 8-9 days ago. So think about that. Caitlin Clark's Iowa team versus South Carolina on that Sunday, just 9 days ago, produced more viewers than the college final. That's never happened before. So the good news is if Caitlin Clark keeps producing ratings, keeps getting fans in the stands, driving attendance, which will therefore drive revenue, drive TV viewers to the TV screen, you're going to see a massive increase in salaries. So it's not about sexism. It's about driving revenue. It's like any business. If you drive revenue, you're going to have increased salaries. And I think the good news is when you got Caitlin Clark, who scored more points than any player in women's basketball history, a Steph Curry type shooter. I mean, she's pulling up from 25, 30 feet, hitting those shots. Very Steph Curry. She's kind of like very Steph Curry-like, right? So the good news is the WNBA, you could be making serious, you might even produce a profit if you see Caitlin Clark produce some of the same kind of results she was having in college. So the good news is there's good things coming up. But sexism, folks, I don't think so.